Well, don't I got some egg on my face? What's good, guys? Mush back at it with another video. So I did a video a little while ago talking about the Elden Ring minimum requirements getting posted and then pulled from Steam, and I was like, obviously, the Elden Ring, those minimum requirements looked a little weird, especially from a RAM standpoint, and I was like, okay, so they probably got it wrong. Somebody probably jumped the gun, got something wrong with the requirements because it didn't make a lot of sense to me right off the bat. However, yeah, they're posted again along with the recommended requirements, and they were in fact accurate, which is a little bit of a head scratcher to me, so we'll see how this game ultimately runs on PC with its official release. I think it's gonna be fine. I just am befuddled by that minimum RAM requirement, but we'll talk about it. So I'll take you guys through the minimum requirements again quick, and then we'll take a look at recommended. Recommended looking pretty beefy as well, so we'll talk about that. Minimum RAM requirement, minimum requirements in general, so CPU, let's start with that. Intel Core i5-8400, AMD Ryzen 3 3300X. Minimum RAM requirement, obviously, this is where, like, things just go awry. 12 gigs of RAM minimum. Now, I saw some comments of people being like, well, you gotta remember, this is like Dark Souls. Yeah, it's on the PS4, but it's an open world now, and I get that. 12 gigabytes minimum RAM requirement? What? Like, that's pushing it. That's triple Sekiro's and Dark Souls 3's minimum RAM requirement. So you're tripling the RAM requirement. It's still on the PS4 and Xbox One. Yeah, like, I still feel like that's a cap, bro. I feel like that's cap. But, we'll see. We'll see how, when the game ultimately launches. I don't have a PC. Oh, no, I do have a PC with 8 gigs of RAM. So I'll actually test that, and we'll see how it runs, come next week. Minimum GPU requirement, GTX 1063 gigabytes or an AMD Radeon RX 5 84 gigabytes, and then 60 gigabytes of storage space. Recommended, on the other hand, recommended CPU requirement kind of wild too. Intel Core i7 8700K or a Ryzen 5 3600X. Obviously, it's going to be utilizing multiple cores here and threads, but i7 8700K and even the Ryzen 5 3600X is pretty beefy stuff. Like, I know a lot of people are going to be like, yo, we just got, like, Dying Light 2 was a cross-gen game, and you need, like, relatively good specs if you want to run that, especially with ray tracing and everything, but Dying Light 2, from a technical standpoint, I was expecting one thing. I was not expecting, like, this game to require, you know, an i7 8700K. To me, that's pushing it a little bit, and for me, I always think, like, when you have a PC and you're hitting, like, just the recommended requirements, that's when you should start thinking about upgrading, and for a lot of people, 8700K, Ryzen 5 3600X, that's probably what a lot of people have. I mean, you know, not everybody has a Ryzen 7 or anything nearer than an 8700K, but maybe that's just pushing it a little bit. I really apply that to GPUs more than anything when you have the recommended GPU. And, you know, newer games are going to come out, and then ultimately that recommended is going to get pushed to the side. But we'll see how that goes. Recommended RAM requirement, 16 gigs of RAM here, so at least it's not like 24 gigs of RAM, but that's still double Sekiro, right? Sekiro was, let me pull this up quick. I believe Sekiro was a recommended 8. Yeah, Sekiro was a recommended 8, so just to put it into perspective, I guess 16... I mean, 16 gigs of RAM is quite a lot. I know a lot of people that, like, bought a PC within the last year and a half, and they were really trying to stay on a budget, and that they got an 8 gigabyte configuration, so again, 8 gigabyte ain't even in you minimum, so that's like, that I find a little bit shocking. But recommended GPU requirement, GTX 1070 or RX Vega 56, that isn't as wild. Like, Sekiro was a GTX 970 was recommended. So, honestly, the GPU recommendation, that's nothing. That's not a big deal at all, but really, the significant leap from a CPU standpoint and the RAM standpoint is what I'm a little befuddled by with this one, but ultimately I think if you have an i5, you're going to be totally fine, but that's a newer gen i5 as well. That's an i5 8400, like, I mean, that's a couple years old, but I still, like, reminisce about the i5 3570K, man, and I wish, you know, that was still solid to run these games, but yeah, for Sekiro, again, circling back to that was 3 years ago, so obviously it's been quite a bit of time, but Sekiro was recommending an Intel Core i5 2500K and a Ryzen 5 1400, and then minimum was an i3 2100 and an FX 6300. Again, Elden Ring, sure, it's a prettier game, it's open world, but it's not like a gigantic leap forward. It's not like this game is like a graphical blowaway, in my opinion. There are definitely some boss fights that look wild, but there were some boss fights that were pretty wild in the other games, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see how the performance is as far as, again, the GPU requirements. I think that's totally fine. That's like totally standard. You're talking about going from a 970 to a 1070 recommended. That's nothing to really, write home about. But going from an i5 2500K recommended for Sekiro to i7 8700K, that's pretty notable. And honestly, if you actually circle back to Dark Souls 3, that game had a recommended CPU requirement of an i7 3770. So that was, what, 6 years ago? So, you know what? Maybe having a i7 8700K isn't like the strangest thing in the world. And at the end of the day, Dark Souls 3 was a very, very well-running game on PC in my experience. From what I can recall, that game launched pretty well, didn't it? Like, yeah, that game ran fairly good for me. So, yeah, this might be a case of the RAM requirement, yeah, that might have to do with it going to a big open world. From Software's first open world title, that is something to consider. And the CPU requirement may not be as big of a deal as I initially expected. Looks like Sekiro just had a strangely low recommended CPU requirement, at least comparatively to Dark Souls 3. It actually stepped back a little bit, but yeah. And then, again, more notable than anything, I think, is that RAM requirement, going from 4 gigs minimum to 12 gigs, and then 8 gigs recommended to 16 gigs. It's just something notable, and I will be interested to see the performance of these games, because recently speaking, the Souls games, in my experience, Souls 3, Sekiro, those games have ran rather well on PC, and I fully expect this to be a solid performing title. Again, I'm just a little bit befuddled by the by some of the requirements, but at the end of the day, I think it's going to be all good. So hopefully we'll get a little bit of clarity once the, review copies start going out. I believe they're already going out. And we hear a little bit more on the performance on various machines. But maybe I'm making a much ado about nothing, but let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And maybe it is a case of, hey, this is going into a big open world. You do have, arguably better visuals, a cleaner aesthetic, and maybe all of this is justifiable. But sound off with your thoughts in the comment section down below, and let me know, am I making much ado about nothing? Definitely something interesting to keep an eye on. But that's going to do it for me. I will catch you guys in the next one. As always, thanks for watching, and peace out. Have a great day, guys.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.